Welcome back everyone to video 8. We start getting into a little bit more of the fun stuff, if not a little bit more gross and kind of scary stuff. Today we're going to talk about burns. So most of you hopefully are familiar with burns, regardless of what they're coming from, be it electricity, be it from fire. There's a lot of dangers that burns pose. The main thing is they can basically kill off those cells, and in killing those off, they can do it a number of ways. Dehydration is a big one, especially with long, slow burns. You worry about dehydration killing those cells. With high heat, you worry about protein denaturization or denaturation. Basically what that means is the proteins that are holding you together unravel and they fall apart when they get too hot. You can also worry about infection, things like a wound getting gangrenous, turning septic, some different things like that if left untreated. We can measure burns using what's called the rule of nines, especially from a medical perspective. We look at the rule of nines. Basically, we divide your body up into 11 parts, well, technically 12, but 11 parts. And each part, and we'll see here in a second what it looks like, is worth 9%. Basically, it's supposed to roughly estimate what 9% of your surface area is. So for measuring how much of your body, your skin is burned, we use this rule of nines. So 11 parts, each with 9%, and then the genitals constitute the last 1% to give you 100%. So we can see here, basically, your entire head is worth 9%, or is approximately 9% of your skin. So 4.5% on the front, 4.5% on the back. Each arm is also going to be worth 9%. So your left arm is worth 9%, your right arm is worth 9%. And you can see here how it's divided up into 4.5% on the front and 4.5% on the back. Your chest area, just the chest area itself, is worth 9%, and then the similar location on your back is worth 9% on the dorsal side. And then you can see your stomach area, that is 9%, and then the equivalent area on your back is also worth 9%. When you get down to your legs, each leg is worth 18%, 9 on the front, and 9 on the back. So together your legs make up a lot of your surface area at 36%. So if you have a burn that covers your entire legs, that's 36% is how we would roughly measure what percentage of you has been struck. And then lastly, you can see the 1% stemming from the genitals. So when we're measuring the severity of burns, we can also use what's called a degree system. These are going to go from first degree, which is the least severe. At this point, the first degree, think of it, only the top layer is burned. Only the epidermis has been affected by this. Usually the skin is going to be red. It's going to be maybe a little swollen. But it's not going to be too bad. Most of your general sunburns are going to be in the first degree range. Second degree, this is going to be the epidermis as well as a bit of your dermis, the papillary layer, have been burned, but you still have growth that can occur here. So first degree I like to think as being the first layer of skin, second degree as kind of being the second layer of skin, being that epidermis and papillary layer. If you have a second degree burn, this is when blisters start to develop. Remember from an earlier lecture I talked about blisters form if you separate the dermis from the epidermis, and some of the fluid that ends up forming in there is what oozes out whenever you pop a blister. So if you have a second degree burn, it is so bad that dermis and epidermis have begun separating from all the heat pockets basically building up, and that's going to cause your skin to be red and blistered. Third degree burns, these are going to be all the way through epidermis and dermis, and could extend into the hypodermis, though we don't really consider that a part of the skin. But third degree burns usually are dangerous because you don't feel them. All the nerves that are located in the reticular layer of your dermis are burnt off to the point where they are dead and they can no longer sense heat. They can no longer sense pain. And as a result, a third-degree burn could go unnoticed if it was a very, very quick burn to begin with. If you have some sort of third-degree burn, the epidermis and dermis have been killed. They are going to be gray. They are going to be black. They're going to be some sort of dead color, basically grays and black. And basically to replace that skin, doctors are going to need to use a skin graft, which is where they take skin from some other source. They actually have artificial skin grafts now that they can use, and they will remove the dead skin and then replace it with the skin graft that your body hopefully will accept and incorporate into itself as it starts to try to regrow from the edges, if at all possible. Then you have your fourth degree burns. These are the most severe type of burns. This is when that burn is all the way past your skin down into your muscles and bones. And in fact, it's so severe a burn that your muscles will dry out completely and they'll almost kind of look like a leather type of material. At this point, you are definitely needing a skin graft. Everything is dead there, and you're definitely going to need surgery if you want to save whatever it is you have burned. So here you can see pictures of those burns. Up at the top here, we have a first degree burn. You can see that skin is very, very red. Second degree burn in the second picture here, you can see the blisters starting to form on the hand. And then lastly, I'll move myself out of the way here. A third degree burn, you can see the dark patches of skin that are no longer alive. So if you are a medical provider and you are trying to determine if a burn is critical, there are a couple of ways you can do that. First, if 30% of the body or more, based on the rule of nines, is covered in a second degree burn. So basically you're looking for blisters across at least 30% of the body. So you think if you had blisters covering your entire legs, both right and left legs, that's approximately 36%. So that would be considered a critical burn, although it would meet some other criteria we'll see here. You can also consider a burn critical if it is a third or fourth degree burn on at least 10% of the body. So that is going to be basically one entire section of 9% that we have divided up, plus a little bit more spilling into some other region. But again, that's a third or fourth degree burn. Basically, the entire muscle and everything in that area is completely wiped out. Also, a burn is considered critical if it is on your face. Obviously, your face is pretty important. Hands and feet and genitals also very important places that, if burned, can quickly become debilitating, which is not something we want to have happen. Any burn of your airway, so it can be really difficult to think. Usually you think of a burn as being somewhere on your skin, but if you swallow really hot coffee, for example, hot chocolate, whatever it might be, and you burn your airway, if you severely burn that airway, it can be considered critical because obviously you need to breathe in order to be able to live. And the last criteria is any burn that circles around the body or around a limb, and this even will include around the neck. Basically, when you have a burn that is around the entire section of body, think if I had a burn all the way around, like around my wrist here, I'm in danger of losing this hand because of the cell death that's taking place here, especially into your third and fourth degree burns, preventing any blood flow getting to that hand. I would be in danger of losing this hand. So a burn that circles around a limb or around the body is certainly considered critical. So that is all we have on burns. Very, very quick look at burns. Hopefully it's not something you really have to deal with. Most people are lucky enough to stick with a general sunburn, and that's about as bad as it gets. But this is something that commonly affects the skin, and so that's why we include it here.